Hey guys, welcome to my first official no bullshit review. It is about the LG G3, but please don't take this video as the reference because as you can maybe see, I don't have the device. I got a very good offer for all three of them on short notice, and this is the bad news. I couldn't make any footage anymore before I had to give them away. So please don't be mad about this, and if you're still with me, let's start with the review. Let's damn it. As always, let's start with the design and the build quality, and the big plus we have to mention here is the size and the weight, because the device is very lightweight and is also very compact for a 5.5 inch device. It is definitely on the market the most compact 5.5 incher, and therefore it feels very good in the hand. All the curves around are very good. One thing I don't really like so much is this border all around in the middle of the device, because if you have it with your pinky, you will slightly notice this border not really being sharp or anything, but it's necessary in my opinion. It's a design thing, but doesn't really improve the handling of the device. But otherwise, the weight distribution is very good because the device isn't really long, and therefore, since it's not so tall, it isn't top heavy. So weight distribution is fine, feel in the hand is fine, absolutely nice. And I would almost say the best, but there is one better, and I will talk about that later. About the back finish, we have this metallic fake brushed aluminum finish. It feels very good. It has a good amount of grip, unless you don't get sweaty or greasy hands, because then it can get a bar of soap. If we now want to talk about the ports and the buttons, one thing I like is the headphone jack at the bottom, because if you put your device face over downwards in your pocket, you have the headphone jack at the top, and this is nice. This is definitely a small solution. This is how it should be in my opinion. The other thing are the back buttons. I think they are no problem. They are very easy to reach, quite convenient to get a hold to. The only problem is if a device is laying flat on your table, it's a bit tricky. Sure, you have double tap to wake, but what about if you want to change the volume? You have it in your notification tray, but turning the device off just isn't possible. You can use double tap to sleep, but then you have to jump to the home screen. So this is a small little drawback of this otherwise good idea. So in overall, it feels very great in the hand, and it is, I would say, the second best 5.5 incher in terms of feel in the hand, because place number one still is the Find 7. Let's talk about the display. We have a 5.5 QHD 2K display, which is hyped in the news, in the media, everywhere. It's the hyper beast of this device and should be the biggest selling point. In my opinion, it isn't, and the reasons are, first of all, we have QHD, we have a high resolution, and if you do a side-by-side comparison with a 1080p device, you will notice more sharpness, more details in pictures, in text not really, but I will talk about, let's talk about it. It's the over sharpening. You have a lot of apps and a lot of things with text that just gets over sharpened. You don't see this so much on videos and on pictures, but on text it is clearly noticeable. You have this white shadow all around. And I found this to be very disturbing. I didn't like it at all. The Find 7 with its 2K display didn't have this, and in my opinion therefore was superior. Maybe some of you don't have it or don't see it or don't notice it, but I did, and I didn't like it. But that's not the only drawback, besides you getting a better picture. The thing is the brightness. You need a lot of brightness on this device, because at 100% it already isn't really bright. That's already no good thing, but the other thing is you need a very high amount of brightness to get even an acceptable level, because on the OnePlus One or on the Nexus 5 or any other device, I am usually at maximum 30% of brightness, and that is enough for me. But to get this level of brightness on the G3, I needed at least 60%. This causes extra drain, extra heat, and extra heat you will notice once the device is on for more than a couple of minutes. Big drawback. One of the also bigger drawbacks is the white level, because I can't call it white. For me it was yellow in a side-by-side comparison. That's the one thing you have to remember. If you do a side comparison with a really neutral white device, like for example my OnePlus, you will definitely notice the yellow white. You can see this in my unboxing video. But the thing is, if you only use the G3 and don't have anything else to compare it with, you get used to it very quickly, and it isn't even that bad, I have to imagine. You get used to it, it is okay, but still, no real white takes off a lot of other things. In terms of black, black is fine, can't complain, it gets quite dark, it shows a lot of enough details. The colors are good, but I think they lack of a bit pop and vividness. They seem a bit dull in overall. And then there is also one thing, you have color settings, and it's too bad I can't show it, but it is like this. You have one circle you can move around to change the contrast and the hue. But the really important things like white balance or maybe saturation are missing, because only with the contrast you can change the picture to get more contrast, but you can't really use the hue, because then you get immediately different colors. So in overall, to sum up the display, very sharp, very detailed, but no brightness. Your viewing angles were okay in overall, and the white was pretty poor. So in overall, very sharp display, but not more than average after all. Let's head over to the sound, and this time I can't show you a demo, but let me tell you about it. The maximum volume is okay. It is definitely not even close to as loud as the OnePlus, but it is way louder than, let's say, the Nexus 5, and also definitely no 1M8 level. It is okay, acceptable, and I don't see myself wishing for more. It was satisfying enough. The other thing about the sound of the balance, no bass, not really any bass. The mids are fine. The sound overall is clear, so that's a good thing. One thing it was though, it was quite flat and slightly shallow, but for me it's good enough. As long as I have a loud enough sound, I am fine. One thing that is quite bad though is the speaker placement, because it is on the right side on your back if you hold it like this, and you almost block it all the time. The one good thing of this bad thing is it doesn't really diminish the quality anymore, because it isn't really great from the get-go, so it does really get worse. And if you don't press your hand against it, it will slightly reflect, and that's not even too bad. But in overall, the sound loud enough, good clear sound, but that's pretty much it. Let's talk performance now. First of all, the overall experience of the performance is very solid, very smooth, and mostly lag free. There is one big caveat I have with it though. You don't have any 60 frames per second smoothness. For me it feels like 40, 45, 50 at best, but you will notice, and if you are a gamer you know how much difference 15, 20 frames can make. So as I said, everything is smooth, but never has this super smooth feeling. And that is one thing I was missing already on the Find 7, and I'm missing it here as well. So things are fast, but not super smooth. The other thing I have to mention is the PDF performance was quite poor. Sites needed a lot of rendering, maybe due to the higher resolution it needs to render more, but I had to wait for every site to load, when other devices already, if you normally scroll, always have a site. You never see a blank page, you did see here. Browsing performance otherwise, like I said, every app, every game, everything is smooth. I don't really have to go into detail, but not 60 frames per second smooth. Wi-Fi performance, signal was strong, but kind of flaky, because my Wi-Fi, my data transfer speeds were just very flaky. It jumped a lot back and forth, which I usually don't see, always have a constant rate, which I didn't have here. Maybe it's a bit bad luck, but it is as it is. The signal reception itself was, I would say, poor as on my OnePlus. So I've seen better devices here. It didn't have any real trouble with the reception, but it wasn't just the strongest one. So in overall, the performance is on a very high level, but definitely no flagship level in terms of speed maybe, but just not because of the smoothness. This diminishes for me the overall experience. Battery life is always a pretty crucial factor on every smartphone, and my thoughts on this: first of all, the full charge needed less than 2 hours, maybe 1 hour 50, which is a very good value, the second best after the Find 7. Pretty impressive. Battery life was less impressive though. I got on different tests, and just to get a few examples, I got through a normal day barely 4 hours of screen on time, barely, with those mentioned 60% of brightness, but this was with not really a lot of standby. I did also one test how much screen on time I can get at one time, and it was about 5 hours, but then I only had like a total time of 7. And 6 hours would be possible, but maybe in 6 hours of use, I think you could kill the device. And you maybe also need to lower the brightness. Like I said, you need 60%. With 100% brightness, I got like slightly over 4 hours in a hardcore test. But with what could I compare it? I think the closest one would be the Find 7, which has the same display and the same battery size. So in overall, not really good. Better than the Nexus 5, but in the end, everything is better than the Nexus 5. The battery life is, I would say, a higher average, but compared to all the other flagship, it can't compete anymore. Not completely. Software. One still big weakness from LG. Design-wise, it is okay. I didn't have a problem. It looked not like anything like stock Android, but it was okay. Not really anything you should have a problem with. But the thing is, you didn't get any really useful features. You get some things like dual window and this slide, Q slide and all those things. But like I said, nothing really useful. Because all the really useful things I would have liked to see were just missing. And I don't want to really mention it. You have no screen of gestures. You have nothing out of the ordinary. The system itself is pretty limited. Even though one thing it has a lot is bloat apps. You get quite a shitload of bloat apps. If you use something like else, you can get rid of it, but they are there. So in overall, the UI looks okay, but it also seems to quite cause a delay. Maybe it's poor optimization or anything else, but I wouldn't really say it makes the device slow, but you have a delay on everything you do. If you hit the home button, you have to wait almost a second, and there is no double tap function it waits for. It just is slower. If you switch between apps, you will see a noticeable delay. It just is like it is waiting half a second and then reacts and then quickly jumps. And this quickly jumping also often causes a slowdown while the transition animation, which was quite obvious with, and I'm pretty pissed I couldn't make the comparison video, because switching through apps like I usually do, you have animation, and here you have always waiting, animation, stutter, waiting, animation, slowdown, and this is quite noticeable. So it does slow down the system in overall, even though you wouldn't expect it to be. So in overall, the software is not really good. Next thing in line to mention really quick is the XDA qualities I like to mention. Right now there is not a lot of there yet. You don't have really any ROMs, you don't have any custom kernels. But of course the device is just out for a few weeks, so this can come. But one heavy burden the device has here though are the many variants. There are like 5-6 official ones, and I'm sure there are way more smaller ones. I heard something like 17 variants in total, which is crazy in my opinion. But this makes the support a bit weirder, because not every development team wants to release a ROM for every single variant. Maybe they will release one and then you have to patch it to get to work on your, like it was on the G2. But it will definitely diminish the quality of the XDA qualities. Yes. Usually I don't even mention the camera part, but let's just do it for this time. The camera is very good in daylight situations when you have good lighting. In low light, not so much. The video qualities are in overall very impressive, very detailed, very sharp, very smooth videos. So that's all I can say. The video camera in overall is good, and definitely maybe even one of the factors that could make you decide to buy this device. Let's do a recap now real quick, and then let's see what else there to say. First of all, design and the build quality, very good, very compact, definitely nice. The display, overall average at best, besides the sharpness and detail of the display. The sound, loud enough, good, satisfying, no problem here. Performance, like I said, it is there, but it is not on flagship level. After all, don't tell me it is on a flagship level, because it isn't. But battery life, like I said, not impressed. It should get the job done. It got me through the day, but it also was a very warm device, which I didn't like so much. System, software, yep, it works, but it's not really anything exciting, impressive. No, not really. So would I recommend it? Would I buy it? If you want a yes or no answer, my answer for would I recommend it is no. If you want a yes, I can tell you one thing. Yes, if you want the most compact device. If you want a very, very good camera in daylight, not so much in low light, but overall very good camera. If you are okay with just non-flagship level performance, but still very good. The device also gets very warm. The display itself is not very bright and slightly boring. Very sharp though, okay. And the battery life is for flagship in comparison, I would say average at best. So if this all is good enough for you, then okay. I personally wouldn't spend so much money on just a device that is on a high average level on everything else. So that's why my answer is, would I buy it the same as on the Find 7? Hell no. Why? The main reason simply is there are better devices in every category. There are ones with better displays, with better sound, maybe not with a better camera, but with a better feel in the hand, with better performance, better battery life, if I didn't mention it already. So if you can see, there is one in every category that is better, and there are even devices that are almost in every better. And that's why I see no compelling reason to buy the LG 3 if you are not just for the small size. But in the end, another 5.5 inch like the OnePlus or the Find 7, yes, it maybe is bigger on first sight, but after a few days the difference doesn't really make any difference for me, and that's why I say no. So that's it for my review of the LG G3. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it and if you disagree with my opinion about the LG G3, please let me know why. Don't just dislike it, because I want the reason why you think it is the best device, because personally I just don't see the appeal besides the very nice feel in the hand and the compact form factor. That's about it. Okay, until next time.